Hey everyone, welcome to day 5 of my 12 Days of Interactive December Dailies video series. Today I'm going to be sharing the process video for the layout that I made for the Tags Scrapbooking Kit Instagram Hop, and that was hosted by myself and a few other members of the Ali Edwards Brand Ambassador Program, so make sure to check out my Instagram post for a full list of today's Hop participants, as well as a full playlist of our process videos on YouTube for this Hop. And I'll leave those links in the description box below. For this layout, I'm going to be using the small vellum tags from the Tags Scrapbooking Kit to make a layout in my 6x8 December daily album, documenting an overview of all the classes and lessons I taught in 2022. I'm starting out with some pieces that I've already prepped, so I took the City Sidewalks 10x8 pattern paper from the Ali Edwards December Daily collection. This was part of the main kit this year, and I enlarged it using Microsoft Word so that each of those buildings in the paper are at least 1 5/8 inches wide, because I want to create pockets behind 7 of those buildings to hold a bundle of tags, including that small vellum tag, which happens to be 1 5/8 inches wide. After I enlarged that pattern paper, I printed out 3 separate sections of the buildings so they didn't all look exactly the same. The bottom 2 spanning the entire 7 inches of the width of my page outside the page protector, making sure that I have 3 intact buildings in each of those 2 rows, and the top 1 row consisting of only 3 buildings because I needed only 1 additional building in that row to serve as my 7th pocket, and I also wanted to leave an empty space just to the left of those buildings for my number 5 chipboard number. I then fussy cut out each of those rows of buildings, cutting off the bottom section of the pattern paper with all of that text in it. And you'll also see that I've printed out a section of that beige starry background towards the top part of that pattern paper to serve as the backdrop for my layout. So now that I have my starry background adhered onto my base page, I'm going to start making the pockets for my tags. So here's an example of what my tag bundle is going to look like. I've attached one of the small vellum tags onto a 1 5/8 inch wide by 3.5 inch tall piece of photo paper where I've typed out the class or lesson name of one of the 7 classes I taught this year, along with a photo of either the class announcement or the project that I created for that class. And I've also cut out a bunch of pieces of white cardstock into strips that are 1 inch wide by 3 inches tall, and then I scored that down the center at the 1 inch side, and then applied some 3/8 inch score tape along both sides, and that's going to make plenty of hinges that I can use to assemble my pockets. So my assembly of all 7 pockets will pretty much be all the same. I'm just going to position my tag where I want it to fit behind my strip of buildings, making sure that it's lining up with one particular building that I want it to come out behind. And I just want to have 1/2 inch of that tag peeking out at the top. Then I'm going to line 2 of these hinges that I've made up against the right and the left side of this sample tag that I've made, just to kind of wrap around both sides of the sample tag, and then trim off any of those hinges that might be overhanging the bottom of my row of buildings. So these will serve as the 2 walls of my pockets so that my tag can slide in and out. And I do want to make sure that the hinges are at a 90-degree angle to the bottom of that building row. And after that, I'm going to seal up the bottom of my pockets with some 1/8 inch score tape right along the bottom where I want that tag to stop going down, just so that it's not going down too far. And again, making sure that I have about 1/2 inch of that tag poking out over the top edge of my pocket. This top row is only going to have 1 pocket coming out of it, so once I'm finished all the pockets in that row, I'm going to use my tape runner adhesive to cover the rest of the back side of that pattern paper, making sure to avoid the areas where I have the pockets, and then remove that tape backing to adhere this down onto my base page. And you'll see that pocket in action right here. I am going to stop periodically to make sure that those holes are still punched along the right side of my page, just because I am going to be building up multiple layers across this page. So I want to make sure to stop between each layer and punch those holes so that it's not ever going to be too thick to punch my holes. So just going to speed up this next part by about 10 times so that you can see the assembly of the rest of the pockets, but it's pretty much all the same process that I'm doing. But just a couple of tips that I found helpful when assembling this multi-pocket page. I did find it helpful to adhere the hinges as close as I could to the top edges of the pockets without going over the top edges of the buildings, because it prevents the tag from getting caught on the top of the hinges as you're trying to slide them down into the pockets. I think as well, having a ruler to make sure all the hinges are straight up and down at right angles to the bottom of the page would be a bit more helpful. I was trying to use the tag as a guide to make sure all my hinges were straight, but then I had to kind of maneuver it out of the way as I was sticking down the hinges, so it just made the whole process a bit more awkward to do. And you might be wondering as well, if I'm using the 1/8 inch score tape to close up the bottom of the pockets, why didn't I just use 1/8 inch score tape to close up all 3 sides of the pockets? And the reason why I don't like doing that is because, for example, for the bottom 2 rows of the buildings, I had 3 buildings adjacent to one another that all had to be made into pockets. So if you use 1/8 inch score tape as the walls of your pockets, that's just going to shift the actual pocket itself by 1/8 of an inch, because obviously you can't have anything underneath where that score tape is going to be. So then the tags going in and out of those pockets don't really line up as well beneath each of those buildings. And also, by doing it this way and adding those cardstock hinges, I'm essentially adding 2 layers of cushion room underneath those pieces of pattern paper, so it just allows the tags to slide in and out of the pockets a bit more freely than if I had just used score tape to make those walls. The last tip I'll share is for adhering those building strips down once all the pockets are done. So I found it easiest to adhere starting from one side of the layout, making sure that that left side of the page was nice and lined up, and then slowly going through and removing the tape backing from the next pocket and adhering that one down, and then going through and adhering the next pocket down, etc. And that just prevents the hinges from accidentally sticking to one another, because there is a lot going on in the back of this pattern paper. Just testing out the pockets here and giving it one last hole punch to repunch our holes. And after that, I'm moving on to making the tag bundles for each of my 7 pockets. I picked out 7 vellum tags from this tags scrapbooking kit that kind of matched the colors in this pattern paper that I was using. So I picked out some of the gold foiled ones, as well as a greenish one and a reddish one, and some of them do have sentiments on them, but I think the sentiments do match the story behind this layout. And I made 7 tags using photo paper with an image from each of the 7 classes I have taught within 2022, with the name of the class typed up at the top and the date that the classes went live stamped at the bottom using a Heidi Swap date stamp. And the reason why I chose to do this page as my day 5 page in my December daily album was because I actually had one of my most recent classes with big picture classes being released on December 5th. And that prompted me to look through all the classes that I've taught this year, and I just had a moment of gratitude for all the companies that have invited me to teach or contribute lessons to their classes over the year, as well as gratitude for everyone who has taken any of my classes this year. So I just lined up the vellum tag over top of the photo paper tag, and then I poked a hole through the paper with my Kraft pick. And then I'm using a brad, this is just one of the ones from my stash, to secure the vellum tag onto my photo paper. Then I decided to back each of my tags with some Kraft cardstock, just to provide some extra stability as I'm going to be sliding these tags in and out of those pockets. And the Kraft cardstock will also help cover up the prongs of the brads in the back as well. I used the Puffy number stickers from this year's December Daily main kit to label each of my 7 tags. And last but not least, I'm just cutting the top 2 corners of the photo paper to make those into a matching tag shape. To decorate my page, I added the number 5 chipboard number piece to the top left corner with some of the wood veneer stars that were part of last month's add-ons, I think. And to the bottom right corner, I added a beige tag that I had printed out from one of the 12 by 12 pattern papers from the kit. I just shrunk it down a bit to a smaller size and typed up the sentiment, "The least I can do is thank you." That's a lyric from a Christmas song by Pentatonics. And I stapled some velvet ribbon from Tim Holtz through the top of that tag before attaching it down as well. I hope you enjoyed that process video. Make sure to check out my Instagram post as well as the other YouTube videos for this hop. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. If you liked this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more December daily process videos. Thanks so much for watching.